Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Ali and I am back with you with another Raidshadowlegends video. In this video, we are going to build a Hydra team for normal, and the purpose of this video is to make a Hydra Clash team that does a lot of damage and is accessible to most people. And of course, it's free to play. So I've already built this team and I've already done my key. Unfortunately, I lost my footage of the run, but I can show you the damage, I can show you the builds, and I can tell you what I was exactly doing in the run. Okay guys, so let's go see the builds and see the champions. The first champion that we're using is Arbiter. She has 342 speed, some defensive stats, and some accuracy. She doesn't need this much accuracy, but what I would recommend on her is as much speed as you can and just keep her tanky so that she doesn't die. And why you're using her is because of her A1, which is weakened, and her A3 because of the increased attack and Terminator boost. Also, she gives you some nice healing on the A3, and she has a nice healing as well. And she deals with the enemy boss, which are the Hydra heads, which is very nice. And her masteries are just the arena masteries, nothing crazy. The second champion that we're using is Raidshadowlegends. He was a recent fusion. He is in a provoke set, and his stats are 250 speed, some HP, and some defense. I tried to give him some attack and some crit rate and crit damage so that he does damage. And he has some accuracy. This is too much for normal Hydra. You only need 150 to 200 accuracy for normal. And on him, you would actually need much less because he gives everyone increased accuracy buff and increased speed buff. So you don't need as much accuracy. The reason he had it is because he's used in my brutal Hydra team and in my Fire Knight Hard team. On the third champion that you're using, which is kind of important in this team, is Artag. Artag is in a curse set and perception. The reason he's in the curse set is that all his abilities are AoE attack, and so it doesn't matter if your Artag is running slow because he gets extra speed from his passive. So he's at 214 speed, some defense, a lot of HP, some crit rate and crit damage, and too much accuracy. He's not built for normal. This is just what I had. But if you want to get the best out of him, you can just give him a lot of crit rate and crit damage, less accuracy, and run him fast in a curse set. And they can do a lot of damage for you through just physical hits. The next champion that you're using is Ugo. She's in Reluctus. I used to use her in my Nightmare team, but not anymore. She has a lot of HP, some defense, 265 speed, too much accuracy because, as I said, these champions are not built for normal Hydra. You can run her with less accuracy. And she has blood buff and decreased defense. She gives us a very good heal and removes the heal reduction and 1 debuff from all allies. She gives us leech, and her masteries are like this. I'm not sure if I showed masteries of Raidshadowlegends, but these are the masteries on Raidshadowlegends. And so the next option is Huracan. Huracan is in the Relentless set, which gives him an extra turn. You can use Reflex set, or you can just run him very fast in like a normal set. What we're focusing on him is some attack, some crit damage, some crit rate, and some accuracy, and a lot of speed. The faster he is, the more damage your nuker and like other people do. And the reason he doesn't have 100% crit rate in my team is because I didn't have silver to just change his build. So I just let it be like this. But you can definitely give him some crit rate, some crit damage, and some attack, and make him do very good damage. And the last person in my team, which is the man of the hour, Fanax. He does A1 all the way through the battle. And his A1 hits 1 time. If you have debuffs, it hits 2 times. So attack heads that have debuffs. the first thing to know. Also, he is in a Savage and Full set with 5.9k attack, almost 6k, very squishy, 170 speed, 100% crit rate, 237 crit damage, just a little bit of accuracy. And I think I have some extra stats here. Yeah, I do. What I would recommend is to make him as fast as you can and make him hit very hard in Savage and Cool here. If you don't have Savage and Cool, that's fine. Just build him as well as you can. He's just going to be using a 1, but if your gear is not as good and you might need block buffs, you can use his A2 to land it. It's not 100%, it's 70, it's 80%. And he has decreased speed and decreased defense on the A3 too, which is okay. It doesn't land all the time, but it's good, it's useful. But I would mostly use his A1. And he's in offense and defense. We went with Helm Smasher because he hits so hard that he doesn't even need the War Master class. He just kills ahead. And some of the masters that are very important are Deterrence and Retribution, because whenever you hit the Fear head and you get feared, Phoenix retaliates and attacks it, and he kills it with like 3 or 4 hits, and if he doesn't weak it, so that's pretty good. Okay, so instead of Razzleboard, we have other options for increased speed. One of the good ones would be Lady Annabelle. Lady Annabelle gives you increased speed buff. It's on a 4-turn cooldown, but it gives you a revive on death, so you can just save people from dying. Also, she gives you leash and decreased speed, so it helps you stay alive and control the heads. Her passive, and doesn't matter, her A1 kind of heals herself, which is nice. And she has some nice base stats. Another option would be Archmage Helmet. He gives you a lot of nice buffs, but that's all he does. He's A2 and A3 don't really much, so he's not the best. Another good option, which would be probably my top choices, would be Ragash. Ragash gives you decreased defense on AoE, and it's an attack, and it's very hard. He gives you strength and increased speed, and he gives a vein to your neuter, which is Phoenix, which is nice. Also, he gives himself increased defense, so he can hit hard. You don't need to worry about his increased defense buff to do damage. Another option that gives you speed would be Uko. He does give you block buffs too, which is nice. He does give you some revive, and he does give you some decreased attack, which can be okay. The other option, which is probably the best option if you're talking about speed, is Nekmuthar. He gives you a lot of turn meter boost, increased speed, decreased speed, and reach, decreased attack, and his passive gives you a lot of he gives him a lot of turn meter too, and he has a nice 19% speed aura. I would definitely recommend him, but he doesn't really do much damage. The last option instead of Razzleboard would be Lady Kimmy. Lady Kimmy gives you increased speed and increased accuracy buff, conditional block buffs. It only lands if you strip buffs from the heads, which can come in handy at times. And she does give you some decreased speed too. A new champion, which is very crazy, is Shuzen or Shuzen. Increased speed, turn meter boost, decreased speed. The decreased turn meter doesn't really matter. It's a nice one. The other skills don't really matter. However, this one is pretty crazy for Phoenix because he just gets a turn and he goes again. So you could definitely use her. It's a very good option. Okay, so to replace Ugo, we have other options for blood buffs. We have Urtuk. On the A3, he does give you some bonus damage because of the poisons that he puts on people from his passive. So he's a good option. Of course, there's Ugo, which is very nice. Also, there is Uko that I mentioned for the increased speed, so he gives you two things at the same time. There is a new champion, Son Wukong or Monkey King. His A3 gives you block buffs, but that's all he does. Also, he does give you some good damage, and he just revives all the time if he dies. So you can build him very squishy and make him do extreme amount of damage, which could be an option. The next option would be Mr. Archbishop Ventra. I am a big fan of this guy. He gives you block buffs, heal reduction, increased accuracy. He gives you a nice heal on the A3 and increased defense. And he reflects back some of the debuffs and steals some of the buffs sometimes. I'm a big fan of this guy. I use him in my brutal team for Hydra, and I'm very happy about him. I'm very happy with him. He's my only healer in that team. Okay, so there are other options that are not as good. Maybe there's Wuji that has blood buffs, but you don't need her really because she's a mischief tank, but we kill mischief really fast. There is Licinia. I'm not sure if I'm Licinia. Yeah, that's how her name is. She gives you block buffs, but it's not 100%. And she does give you a shield and strength and buff, which are nice. And her passive just feels sucks. Okay, so for Rakan, he does ally attacks, so you have a few good options. You have the best one, which is Cardio. Gives you a lot of healing on the A1, pick one, but debuffs, revive undead, and his A3, which is an ally attack and he gives some buffs to the champion too. And he has a nice speed aura, but he's very difficult to get. Another option, which is kind of accessible, he was a recent fusion, Lonazero. I didn't go for him at the time, and I am sad about it. Very sad. He gives you a good shield on the A2, and his A3 is the ally attack one, and he attacks with it himself. There are other ally attackers, but they're not for all the teams, so I would recommend these three. Okay, so let's talk about replacements for Mr. Artag. So instead of Artag, you need another burn, and you probably want them to do area attacks so you can put a hex set on him and do just a lot of damage. Well, if you don't have a hex set, Tila is a good option. She gives you hex and leech, and she gives you burns. But if you can put a hex on anyone, I would 100% recommend hex set over hex skill. Another good burner, which is Supreme Gaelic. He does good damage. And he gives you a lot of debuffs, block buffs, HP burn, and decreased speed. He's a very good option. Another good option would be in the Demon Spawn, CCF Lantime. She gives you decreased defense and weaken, and also she gives you burns, and she does good damage. That's pretty nice. And yep, that's that. Tyrant is not a bad option. He does give you some protection too, but you don't really need protection. In the Skinwalkers, Tunisia gives you decreased speed, which is conditional, and the burn. And she does it's very hard, so she's a good option. There are other burners, but these are just the ones I recommend. There is another one, Ignatius. Ignatius is a very good one. He has a provoke, he hits very hard, he has a AoE burn, two AoEs, and his A1 doesn't really matter. You can definitely put him in a provoke set, or you can put him in a X set, and just keep your team moving. Okay, so the replacement for this Arbiter is Nova. I would recommend using Arbiter over any other person because she gives you revive, she gives you a lot of healing, a lot of Terminator boost, increased attack, She deals with the buffs of the heads, and she gives you a weaken debuff. So I would 100% recommend using her. Now let's talk about the nuker, which is Phoenix. You can have other replacements for him. One of the good ones is Whisper. Whisper gets an extra turn on the A3 if you have decreased defense and weaken on the heads. She gives herself some buffs and she hits very hard and ignores defense on the A2 if you have weaken, and she does give you weaken. Also, she does more damage to the bosses, and she does get extra turns from the passive. She's pretty good, so you should always have weaken with her if you want her to keep up all crazy damage. Another one would be Turbolt. You're just looking at single target nukers to replace Phoenix with. Turbolt gives himself 3 buffs. On the A2 gets an extra turn, does the A3, and it does more damage. So Turbolt does more damage the more buffs that he has. So you want other champions that have more buffs in the team. And his A1 does good damage and does weaken too. So these would be the best 3 DPS that I recommend for using in this team. However, someone like Alika does very good damage on the A1 too. If you have her, you can definitely use her. She does good damage on the A3 and the A2 as well, so she's a good option. Okay, so the debuffs and the buffs that you need are decreased defense, block buffs, weaken, decrease attack, and the buffs that you need are increase speed and increase attack. And if you can get extra crit damage from any of the buffs that the champions provide you, that's great, because it's just gonna boost your damage. And yeah, those are just the only buffs that you need to do more damage on normal Hydra in this team. So now let's go look at the team and see how much damage they did. So if you look at my team, this team did 375 million, and that's with a team that was not built for normal Hydra to do the most amount of damage. If they were built to do a lot of damage for normal, I would say they would go over 500 million, because I could see that they were kind of lacking the damage, except for Phoenix. One thing about here, you notice that Artak did 122 million damage, almost as much as Phoenix. But how is that possible? Because he wasn't built really well to do damage, and the burns don't really do that much. What he did was getting a lot of damage through the curse set. And there is one thing that not many people know about, is that if the heads are dead and you have hex on them, instead of taking 10% damage from the nukes, they get 30% damage from the nukes. So that means if 4 heads are dead and you have hex on all of them, and Phoenix hits a head, Artak gets 30% of Phoenix's damage from each head, which means 90% of his damage in total. So Artak's hex gets him extra damage from 10% of the single hits up to 90% of those. So if your champions are built to just nuke as much as possible, you can have the heads dead most of the times, and you can just do crazy damage through the hex and the nukes of these champions. So you should always have that in mind. Okay, so I think this is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have any other questions, please let me know, and I'll see you guys in another video. Goodbye.